Crypto God here, and today we got a familiar face, a familiar voice. You love
familiar
him.
face.
Yeah, familiar face. You know, you love him. You wanted more of him. Joe from Digibyte is here.
Thanks so much for having me back, man.
Of course, of course. How you feeling? How you doing?
Yeah, really good. Really good. All things considering, everything that's going on in life. But really good. It's a great day. So
Yeah.
I'm here having fun on the podcast with you. Let's do this, man.
Oh yeah, let's do it. So there's a lot of things happening right now, Joe.
Yeah.
There's a lot's going down. Everything is down. But
There's a lot going down. You mean like the prices of crypto and things?
yeah. But I couldn't be any happier right now. You know why?
Tell me why.
Because Bitcoin is worth $32,666.
When was the last time it was actually that low? Like, because it went up to 60.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this morning at like fucking, it was like 10 a.m. It got like under 29K.
So I'm just looking here. The last time it was this low was 2020.
Huh. So I'm going to recover. You know what I mean? It's going to recover.
Sure. It's really interesting seeing what's going on with all of the miners and things. And clearly people are worried about what's been going on with the Chinese government and things like that. So I can see a lot of people certainly selling off BTC into like USD Tether, USDC, that kind of thing. But I think one of the best ways to mitigate this kind of thing and mitigate this kind of fear is not to have centralized mining. Like, I think that's probably going to alleviate a lot of that, right? Like, if you can't move your Bitcoin, what good is Bitcoin?
Right. You know what? I also know the all-time high, by the way, came as of April 13th, right? When it hit the 63K. When was it you said it hit the all-time low?
Well, it hasn't been this low since 2020. It was like the middle of December from the looks of that.
So it's going to take a month or so for it to recover. But every time it recovers, it goes up higher.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not just like a one-way.
Yeah.
a one-way trip. We get that a lot, and I presume you probably have. You probably get similar kind of comments like, "Do you know why the price of this has gone up or gone down?" It's like, well, nobody's ever been promised. I mean, at least I hope not. Nobody's ever been promised that things are just only ever going to go up. Like that's not the way that the world works.
Right. There's a lot of things that impact it. For instance, one person just has to be a little scared and sell their bag, and it can impact the entire price.
Exactly.
And
Or
then another
Elon
person
Musk
gets
makes another
scared.
tweet.
Then another person gets scared, and they sell their.
Yeah.
Well, they got scared because he made the tweet. Like someone had to do something, Joe, to make that change happen. It's not like especially in crypto, people have to sell to impact the price, right?
Yeah.
Things have to happen. Decisions have to be made. So someone is really scared of Elon Musk for that to take place.
Yeah. And the hard part is that things that happen with Bitcoin affect almost everything else. So we get that occasionally. We get people popping in our Telegram channels and things going, hey, what's going on with the price here? Well, it's really, really simple. You see, we have a supply curve. And the reason that price goes down is because more people are selling than people are buying, plus the emissions curve. It's really simple to make it go up. More people buy than are selling. It's not really rocket science.
It's really easy to understand. Now, with BSC, the Binance Smart Chain, if there is a coin tethered to it, it's going to be low. Like right now, BNB is really, really low. So, like for instance, if you launched a coin and BNB is down right now, your chart's going to be down. If your market cap's going to be lower, your price is going to be lower.
Yep.
The second BNB goes back up, though, you're going to see an increase.
And the hard thing is that BNB is also linked to BTC in a lot of ways. I mean, Sure, there's a lot of USD pairings and things, obviously, with Binance. But when you think about it, Bitcoin is basically the reserve currency. That's why we measure everything in Satoshis when we're doing our trading or whatever. That's anything that affects Bitcoin affects basically everything else. And the unfortunate reality is that if you've launched a second layer token on top of another blockchain, you're then now 2 degrees affected by the price.
Right. Yeah,
Thanks,
that could be a
Bitcoin.
hard thing, man. But I think that everybody who has big bags in both BNB and Bitcoin are trying to figure out ways to fix it.
Yeah, I mean, more so than fix like the price specifically. I think the price is more of a reflection of what's been going on in the space, and like we've been seeing videos of people shutting down all these miners and things in China. And obviously, like I said before, if you can't move your Bitcoin, then what's the point in even having it if it's going to take hours or potentially even days if they're shutting down 60 to 70% of the miners? Like that could really impact things in the short term.
Right.
So
if
people
in the
we're
long
focusing
term,
more on the
I
solution,
think they're going to fix it.
Yeah,
Like because nobody wants it to fail.
of course.
I also know a way to stop all this bullshit.
You do?
Yeah, I have a little story that I want to share. So I was out on my porch last night smoking my cigar, like one does. How else do I get such a silky smooth voice, right? And like
As you do.
my roommate was smoking a cigarette, and cigarettes don't last as long as cigars. And when we were ready to go out inside, I put the cigar out in the palm of my hand, and my roommate just looks at me like, "Oh, you are a man." And I said, "No, I don't put out my cigars on my palm because I'm a man. I do it because I'm not a bitch." And the key here, Joe, is people just have to not be little bitches and have all this fear control their actions.
Yeah.
They're operating
Yeah, and
in a base reasoning at the brainstem. They're all afraid. They're like, "Oh no, my price," and they're selling off on a low, and then they ended up with less than if they were to hold.
Yeah, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if you're worried about the price going lower, so you sell off, the price becomes lower. Like that's just the way that it works.
It's a negative feedback loop.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
And it's rather insane, to be honest.
I think as well, part of it is as much as a lot of people like to harp on about how great their liquidity is for X, Y, or Z token, chain, asset, whatever. The reality is we're still really, really small in the grand scheme of things in terms of, there's literally thousands, tens of thousands of crypto projects out there now, and even all of them combined, we're still barely a drop in the water in the grand scheme of things. Like that kind of liquidity, it needs to build over time. It still needs to grow further. It still needs to evolve further. One person selling off shouldn't have a 5 or 10% effect on the price, or more certainly, I suppose Elon Musk tweeting going, "Hey, we need a cleaner energy solution here." That shouldn't affect everything the way that it does.
Right. But we will
mature.
What's happening, I think, right? What's happening is, now I could be wrong. I could be very wrong on this. But what I think is happening is he's got information and he's working with some people who have a lot of big bags, and they're manipulating the market and they're using the tweets as a flagship to do it. I could be wrong.
I mean, that's entirely possible. I saw something about him basically being almost pressured into it by his Tesla board, because if you're Tesla, you're based on clean green energy, that sort of thing. That's why they do their solar panels and the like. And so to be doing that, but also accepting Bitcoin, which does use a ton of energy. But the reason it uses a ton of energy is so that you can't manipulate transactions if you are some multi-billionaire or a country. You still can't manipulate the transactions, and that's where it derives its security. So yeah, sure, it uses a ton of energy. Really, really thankful that it does, because that's why it's safe.
Mm-hmm. It's not fossil fuel, for sake.
Yeah, they estimate that anywhere from 60 to 70% of mining was done on clean renewables like hydroelectricity and things.
Right? Like they would have to do renewables, right? Like they would have to. Now, like overusing energy, right, can be like increased carbon footprint. But if it's clean energy, like say if it's powered by solar,
yeah,
then it's not going to increase a carbon footprint.
Yeah. So there's obviously, you've got two different types of renewables. You've got your clean types of energy, and then your slightly more dirty. And so in New Zealand, the majority of our electricity actually comes from clean renewables, about 60 to 65%. We've also got a little bit of geothermal electricity generation, which makes up around about 15 to 20%. And that's done from, that's basically considered a dirty renewable, just because of the way that it is generated. So it's if people are using solar, if they're using hydroelectricity, I think that's a net win overall for for the space. And as things go on, we've certainly seen there's been a demand for further improvements and optimizations of the way that electricity is generated and the ability to supply it and store it and all of that kind of thing, which is a huge net win for humanity as a whole.
Right. Now, there's the, if it's too close to water, even with renewable energy, there can be some stuff that it generates like in the air, but it's not like, if you do it smart, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not too sure about the specific ins and outs of
Well, I'm reading up on it right now, you know what I mean? It's like,
I'd love to do that. Go take a trip to a hydro power station. Like, that sounds like fun though.
Yeah, let's do it. We'll do a field trip. Joe and Crowley's Crypto God Hydropower Station field trip. And then we can have some cheese and wine and like some little tour guides. Like, this is where the thing spins and generates the water.
Why are we just doing cheese and wine and not cigars and whiskey?
You know what? I still want cheese. Can we keep the cheese?
Yeah, okay.
I don't know how. I know that, like, at a certain point with enough wine, anything is, like, not wine, whiskey, anything's delicious. Like, have you ever had a cheese board after drinking enough whiskey?
Not in a long time. I'm lactose intolerant, unfortunately.
Same. But some things are worth suffering for.
So you just got to make sure it's really, really nice cheese.
Yeah. Or you just got to be okay with a 4-hour turnaround on your
Yep, the regret that follows you the next day.
Yeah, I have on multiple different occasions asked myself, why do I do this to myself?
You sit there going, why me?
Oh, I know why me. I did it to myself. I made a choice, and I suffer the consequences for that choice. But
nice cheese with a cigar. That's really.
Yeah. Well, I think whiskey and cigars could be fun as we just like all about the market.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. Right now, everybody's just like, I don't know. I don't have as much money as I had.
Yeah, I saw somebody, they made a tweet and they're basically like, wow, I woke up and had lost most of my life savings. I'm like, oh, why would you? Why? Just no.
Why didn't
yes, I understand the desire to make money, but
why didn't you, like, I don't know, go conservative and then like
yeah, I mean, number one,
your life savings. If you put your life savings, then you should have replaced it.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
Unless you invested in BitConnect, and then, yeah, you kind of lost your money.
Yeah. Oh, it's a Tuesday, right? Is it Tuesday? I don't know what day of the week it is. What day of the week is it?
Yeah, it's Wednesday here. I'm coming from the future.
Oh, are you? Yeah, it's Tuesday then. Yeah. See, yeah. No, it's just like, I don't get why people are so reckless with their money. Are they that greedy or desperate, or what is it? What is it, Joe?
Yeah, well, actually, that's a funny little story, right? So back in 2017, I actually did that. I did the one thing that you're not supposed to do, and I myself borrowed some money, and I put it into Bitcoin and Digibyte, and I was like, yeah, this is gonna, everything's going on the up and up and up, and massive bull run, and let's jump on board the hype train, yeah. And so I did. I borrowed some money, and price carried on going up. Price doubled and kept going up just a little bit more. And then we saw that first really big dip in 2017, and I thought, no, this is fine. It's okay. I'm still in the black. It's all good. No worries. And then it dipped again, and then it dipped again. I'm like, well, if I sell now, I'm at a net loss, and this is going to go really, really poorly. And then it dipped again and again, and over the course of the next, I think it was like year or so, I ended up having to sell off what I'd borrowed for approximately like 8 or 9% of what it was originally worth. When I ended up buying a house with my wife. So there was a little bit of regret there, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a really good way to turn $100 into $9.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Should have, like, I don't know, paid back your debt once you were in the green.
Yeah, but that's just it. That was like the greed aspect, and it took over, So I'm like, well, hard lesson learned, and I'm a staunch advocate for certainly not doing that, because it was a dumb idea. It sounds great, like it sounds like, yeah, you champion, you've borrowed money. No, it was a dumb idea.
It's a horrible idea.
Exactly. Listen to wise advice from Crypto God telling you don't do that.
Yeah, don't. Like, there were some guys that were like, hey, you should give us some tips so we can make some money. I'm like, okay, first tip, don't ever spend more than you can afford to lose. By no means ever go into your life savings.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
it's sounds obvious when you say it, but when you're there in the heat of the moment, actually having somebody else repeat that to you can actually be incredibly, like you can save someone. You really can save someone.
I like don't ever. I invest slow. I'm not a fast investor by any means. I'm like, I'm gonna just take my time and then pick a project here, see what happens with it, and then if I lose my money, then I'll just pick a new project. If I gain money, then I'll pull out a little bit to recuperate my investment, and then take that initial investment that I recouped, and then use that with a little bit of a percentage beyond it for my next investment.
Yeah, for sure. And you're managing your risk.
Yeah, you got to.
Crypto God's got to look after the people in his life, right? Like
I try to. Like I tell people, like I think a good like investment strategy, honestly, is you listen to every single podcast and just drop $5 on every single one, because then you have a wide range investment portfolio with like 30 different projects every month with 30 different potentials for gain and loss. So
yeah, I mean,
going to pay off more. Some of them aren't going to pay off, but it's $5. So for like $150 a month strategy to actually like you could do that roughly for, let's see here, if only one of them pays off 1000x, right? If only one of them pays off at 10x, then you're not going to see much benefit. But if one of them goes 100x, you're covered for like 3 months worth of investing. So you would have 90 opportunities to see a 100x return. That's not bad. And then you're in the profit by $50. And there's a good opportunity where like you're going to notice, oh, this is not working out pretty fast. Or you'll be like, oh, it's already increasing and growing right away. Like, and if one of them goes 1000x, you know what I mean? If we take that, and we divide that by 30, right? That's like 100. Yeah, it's about a year's and a half's worth of
playing around and getting worried about what you're doing with your money.
Yeah, but it's $5 pops, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like you're not going to really worry about $5.
Yeah, it kind of. I mean, it's the hard thing, right? Is so this also comes back a little bit to what I was talking about before in terms of like that distribution. And if all of the for a lot of like blockchain projects that are based on mining and are on a second layer token, you need a good way to distribute that.
Mm-hmm.
And you've also got to be careful, likewise, with ICOs or similar, that the distribution of that token isn't about to come and bite you in the ass when 50% of it becomes unlocked and the founders get to spend it all. I think that also plays a lot into it, and that's one of the reasons why I'm super interested specifically in CPU and GPU mining, not just for Digibyte, but overall. It was the original reason why Bitcoin itself was specifically mineable on a CPU to begin with.
Right.
I think there's a lot to be said for having a good distribution of an asset where when you're invested in it because you've mined it yourself, for starters, you're less likely to just up and sell it with a small amount of price movement. But more specifically, you're more likely to hold on to it if you are a enthusiast miner. But I think above all, you gain a better knowledge of the things that you are investing in, and specifically spending your time and your computer's electricity in.
Right.
And you more than definitely avoid these kind of things like we're seeing with the mining centralization in China.
Right. I mean, I have some plans to start some what I've been calling mining pits, myself, like long-term plans, like the equivalent, the processing power of like 1,000 computers all housed in one warehouse.
Right.
And
making your own large mining pool at that point.
Yeah. I call it the pit. And if I have a specific employee I'm not happy with, I send them to work in the pits. Send them to the pit, to the mining pits. Like, no, sir, please.
I ordered my grapes to be seedless. I'm sending you to the pits for discipline.
Yes. What do I have to do? You just have to sit there and make sure nothing catches on fire. That's it.
That's some real hellfire and brimstone right there.
Oh yeah. Such a rough boss sends someone to go like monitor the cooling equipment on a multi-million-dollar project.
It actually, like, I don't know about you, but I love it. I love watching the blinky lights and things and just sitting there and I find it mesmerizing. I used to have 100 odd graphics cards myself that I was mining with back in the day. And there's something something almost zen-like when you get to sit there. And sure, the fans are whirring and it's relatively high-pitched. Don't get me wrong. But
Right.
there is something that's very therapeutic about just standing back and admiring it. I love it.
Yeah,
I hope you get the pit off the ground.
Yeah, I'm aiming to. What I need to do first is I just got to have some capital to move for that to happen. Like the strategy I want to implement, Joe, it'd take me about $1 million to adequately like make that happen.
Right.
Because I would take a loan to build this.
Yeah.
And so I'd need $1 million for the loan to build the thing, because what I would do is a supercomputer has about the processing power of about 1,000. So all I have to do is just buy 3 supercomputers.
So what's the plan with that? Do you plan on CPU mining something with like random X, for example?
Yeah, pretty much. Like it's just the idea of, well, I was thinking about starting off with Bitcoin, right? Just mining.
Right, so getting yourself a bunch of ASICs.
Yeah, just mining the Bitcoin and then, maybe become one of those big centralized mining people.
And that's the thing is, I mean, it's good that you're thinking about, obviously, that you might have to take a loan for that, because a lot of people, they look at it and they go, yeah, sure, I can go buy an ASIC from my favorite ASIC manufacturer or whatever, and sure, it's only going to cost me $3,000. I mean, $3,000, let's be honest, is a still a ton of money and a large barrier to entry for most home enthusiast miners.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more than just that. If you've got yourself 10, 20, 50, 100 of those, all of a sudden, like you were talking about before, you've got to keep your eye on things like cooling specifically. If you're saying to said employee, you've got to make sure that things aren't overheating. How do you move all of that hot air that these devices generate, and where does it go? How do you extract it? Are you simply trying to cool a room with a chiller, or are you using big fans and all of that kind of fun stuff? So there's a lot of
people need to do when they launch a coin. If it's mineable, they need to develop their own pit for it.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing, because back in the day we had a lot of coins, especially in like 2014, 2015, that were launching and were being mined initially with, so people would rent a ton of hash power, they would mine the heck out of it, and difficulty would skyrocket, and then they would just absolutely up and abandon it and dump the hash rate, and you would see blockchains frozen and effectively destroyed that, because their difficulty adjustment couldn't keep up. It was a Wild West time back in the day.
Well, it's starting to feel like we're getting kind of back there, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so Dogecoin, the reason that Dogecoin is currently merge mined with Litecoin is because back in the day, in early to mid 2014, the blockchain froze for like hours and hours and hours on end, despite the fact that it's supposed to have 2.5-minute block timing. It went hours without producing a block. And so originally they implemented DigiShield. They hopped on a call effectively with the Digibyte developers back in the day, and that helped to smooth things out a whole lot. But over time, they realized that they wanted even more, and nobody was actually mining Dogecoin. Fast forward now 5 years, and it's obviously, it's a top 10 cryptocurrency at the moment, right?
Right.
But it derives its security purely from being merge mined with Litecoin. So it just piggybacks off of that. It's really interesting going back in time and seeing how blockchains actually previously froze, though.
Yeah, it can be difficult to figure out for sure. You know what I mean? Because it's not easy.
No, absolutely. And especially if you're those developers, I can imagine them sitting there at their computer screens going, oh, we were supposed to have a block created, every 2.5 minutes, but it's been 15 hours and nothing's happened. Like, has everything gone belly up? Like, what's going on here? You can imagine them losing some sleep at nights.
Oh yeah, I get it. You know what I mean? Like right now, I lose some sleep every now and then. I'll tell you that much. Just like whenever a project doesn't work right, you're like, oh no, yeah. What am I gonna do? Oh no, I gotta figure out how to make 10 grand tomorrow. Oh no. I gotta make 10 grand in a market that's down at the moment. Oh no.
Yeah.
Like my business model was super, super effective before the crash. And now it's like, crash happened. So, you ain't gonna get as much business as you did in your first week. And it's almost like a bubble popped for me. Right. And it's not that it popped. It's just everybody that had a lot of money beforehand doesn't have as much, so they're being more selective. When greed is high because the market's doing good, people are very quick to spend their money.
Yeah, for sure. Which is funny, given that it's the time when you need to be spending it the most, as if it is down. If you're wanting that longer term investment.
Yeah, it's really interesting, right? Like, this is my first market correction that I've sat through personally.
Right.
I've been alive during the other market crashes and corrections. I just not gotten to have a front row seat like I do now. Now I care. Like back then.
There's something to be said about being quite so heavily, like, it's an emotional investment as well as a monetary one, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And I'm just like, well, it's going to be what it's going to be.
But I can imagine a lot of people are listening, kind of going, oh, I don't know. This is scary.
Yeah, and it is kind of scary, right? If you don't understand, like, this is just the nature of the beast. Like, as I said, just don't be a little and hold.
Yeah, or specifically if you are, like, if you have invested in something that is clearly a pyramid scheme like BitConnect, then sure, be worried. And that's, it comes down to, yeah, it'll be a really hard learning curve for some people.
So
and unfortunately,
here's a question that was posed to me a while back. And I think the organic conversation's here to really make this conversation happen for the people at home, right? So how, Mr. Joe, do you decipher between a scam coin and a legitimate project that's trying to do things right?
That's a really difficult one, especially given there are so many metrics that can be abused or used to potentially hide some kind of potential rug pull. Like, we've seen this a lot in DeFi projects that start up and people are going, yeah, this is the next big thing, but they wake up the next morning and the founder has rug pulled and their coins are literally worth nothing.
Yeah.
I'm personally a lot more conservative. I'm only interested in Bitcoin, Monero, and Digibyte. I'm a real basic when it comes to my cryptocurrency.
I'm a real basic. You heard it first, folks. Joe's a basic. No. Oh.
Yeah. Right, but at the same time, sure, you're obviously not as exposed to some of the wild fluctuations that can happen. Like, we look at things like HIX, for example, where the price absolutely has skyrocketed. Mm-hmm. But you also look at HIX, for example, and you go, right, the primary way of obtaining HIX was sending Ethereum to an address, and nobody publicly ever really talked about who controlled the keys to that address. But if you're Richard Hart and you're making HIX, yeah, you're not giving those keys to someone else. Why would you? That's just stupid. So presume that if you are buying HIX, you were padding his pocket. Mm-hmm. And so there's a whole lot of questions that you can ask yourself when it comes to things like this. Another one, for example, I see often is the decentralized video distribution platforms. Heaps of them. They're like, yeah, screw YouTube, down with the YouTube and things like that. Yeah, sure, I completely understand. And
with very much YouTube. Oh, I got my YouTube channel back, by the way.
Yeah, I was watching a video on there. I can like, you've been very much affected by that, right? By the censorship that can affect people on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And it's terrifying.
Right.
But if you are terrified of YouTube, trying to do that kind of thing in a decentralized manner is not specifically the answer. I mean, we look at a lot of people who will say, yeah, I'll host a node on my laptop and I'll share the blockchain that way. Yeah, the problem is little Terry or Sally Smith, like, you can barely watch a video at 480p, let alone trying to serve that to somebody else across the internet. Like, there's a reason why it hasn't been done that way in the past. And so addressing things with a critical eye and going, why has nobody thought of this before, is oftentimes one of the best things that you can do to pick up on some kind of like a scam like that. The reason it's never been done before is because it's a really bad idea to serve someone else videos over Wi-Fi. Like, that's the short version of it.
Yeah, you need an independent server to handle the load.
But I can understand if someone's in your position, right, and you've had your channel either demonetized or shut down or suspended. Like, it's terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, you were there the day my channel got shut down. I wasn't really scared. I was actually kind of giddy, which was...
Yeah, I remember a lot of laughter there going, oh, there's going to be blood.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'd be more worried if this channel was like 10 times its size and bringing in significant revenue every month as far as like AdSense. But I was still up on Spotify. I was still up on Google Podcasts. I was still up on Anchor. I was still up on every other podcast platform. And YouTube had shut this one down. And I was like, okay.
Well, you've actually made an incredible point there. You've decentralized and distributed your meme rather than the platform. And I think that's super important.
Yeah. Like,
that's so cool, man.
Like that's the thing, you know, like, and for every single podcast platform that I have that's out there for this, it shows up like the first one pops up on the second page of Google last time I checked. Then there's another one on the third page and another one on the fourth page. So it's like I show up everywhere at this point. And like the only thing stopping the channel from skyrocketing is just visibility at this point. It's time. It's time is what's slowing us down. But, you know, I got brought on, actually, big piece of news, I got brought on as an advisor on a currency.
Nice. As
a lead advisor. I'm kind of like pointing where things are going now.
Nice. Congratulations. That's cool.
Yeah. Remember I told you about Save the World?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that one.
Awesome, man.
So they're doing all right. Cool. They're having a rough time like everyone else is right now.
Yeah, and that happens with, you know, the markets being as they are. But thankfully, you have taken your own advice and decentralized your message as you would recommend, I suppose, that people decentralize and distribute their bags.
Investments. Yeah. Like,
yeah, there you go.
Instead of having one big bag and one thing that could get taken away from you if it all fails, decentralize your bag. Exactly. I mean, the whole basis of crypto is decentralization. Why would your investments be any different?
Yeah, that's an interesting mindset, and I like it. I think that's really cool.
You know, like,
So how did you actually get on to being the advisor? Like, sorry, just to go back to that, I think that's pretty cool, man.
So I got brought on as a social media consultant.
Nice.
Right? Like, the Crypto God platform's not a shill, right? Like, I don't really run ads. Like, I wouldn't want to run an ad for another currency at the front of your interview.
Yeah.
That would be...
And full disclosure for people listening as well, there is no currency or sexual favors that have changed hands here as a result of this interview.
I'm working on the sexual favors. Don't get me wrong.
For me?
What? Yeah? Huh? What? I thought a little bit of reciprocation, brother. You... But yeah, no, I mean, I've made it very clear to the audience at home on multiple different kinds that this isn't a shill. Like, me and Joe were just chilling in DMs. I'm like, hey, come back on the podcast. There was never a talk about payment.
Yep, correct.
And
it's really good that you've got that transparency because a lot of places don't, and a lot of people don't realize that actually goes on from time to time. And yeah, they're effectively listening to poorly paid sponsorships. It's super cool to see
paid like sponsorships. Now, I have a currency that I'm on the whitelist spot that I told you about that I am passionate about. I wasn't paid to make the thing that I put out saying, you're missing out. It's ALS token. The Ice Age is here. You know, I wasn't paid money for that.
Yeah.
I want to see the price of the project I'm a part of go up, and I believe in it. That's very different.
Yeah.
That's very different than someone who were to say, hey, I'm going to pay you this amount of money for you to make this many posts.
Yeah.
And speak on these things. Now, I get shills to do advertising on my other platforms. Don't get me wrong.
Of course.
Right? Like the other channel exists to be able to be advertised on. Of course, I want to advertise on my other channels. But I want Crypto God to remain kind of like a neutral territory where I can...
Yeah, and I think it's very admirable.
I'm trying, you know. I want to be able to influence the crypto space, and I don't think I can do that with being paid.
Yeah.
Like, I don't.
Yeah, that's cool that you've looked at the long term there. I think that's awesome. So you heard it here first, people. Hit the like button, subscribe, and share this podcast around. It's one of the few good ones out there that's not just here to take some shill money.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. If somebody really liked the interview and they wanted to tip me, I wasn't gonna turn down a tip. Like, we all gotta eat, you know, but I don't think I've ever been tipped for a podcast. Like, ever. Like, there's one currency, they actually came to the podcast on purpose to do a giveaway that involved the podcast.
That's cool.
Like, if a person wants to promote a contest or a giveaway through the interview, then hell yeah, like absolutely, I'll do that in a heartbeat. But it's not like I don't see any of that giveaway. I don't take a percentage.
Yeah.
I get excited.
And that can be hard, especially if you're organizing like charity, kind of, going back to your ALS stuff, because we've done a little bit of that with Digibyte in the past as well. Mm-hmm. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it's great to be helping people, but at the same time, people are, I'm sure you'll experience similarly. They come to you with your hands out going, hey, we should take a cut of this and we should do this and let's just take a slice over here. And I'm like, nope. The 100% of this is all going to where it needs to.
I get that now through my other company.
Yeah.
I get that now from my other channels, They're like, oh, we want to get paid more for this. Oh, that's not what your contract said.
Yep.
You signed a contract, buddy. I'm sorry. If I pay you more, it's because it's from the goodness of my heart, not because I have to. Legally, I don't have to. People forget, though, right? And I think I think that's something to touch on, too, because I think that's a cancer on the space as well, this entitlement thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So you see that a bit.
Oh, yeah. I see it a lot. Like, they always want, like, if you're in a place where you can do daily giveaways, monthly giveaways, that's great. Don't get me wrong. Like, if the coin's thriving, absolutely, $100 here, $1,000 there, whatever, right? But as a community of these coins, we should realize the price is down for everybody. So prize pools should be smaller and fewer.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think that makes sense.
And also, I really disagree with, like, for instance, there are people that want to hire me to do consultation for them, and they'll, like, want to pay me in their currency.
But you're not allowed to spend that currency for the next 9 to 18 months.
And I tell them they're idiots. They shouldn't be offering people their currency for shills at all. Because the truth of the matter is, I tell them, like, I got to pay payroll. I'm going to liquidate that. I got people to take care of. Like, do not pay me in your currency. Now, there's some trades that I'll do with people, right? Like, say, for instance, Joe, you were to pay for paid advertising, say, over a 3-month period of time. You did the amount of paid advertising for this channel that equals the amount that would cost to do a ad on my big channel, right? Then hell yeah, I'm going to make an ad for you if you pay for some paid advertising for me. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. I think more trading services should happen in the space rather than just trading money.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, right? Like, there's become so much focus on just the bottom dollar as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really focused on the future, and it's like there's this one guy, he has money set aside for paid advertising for various different projects, and he didn't have enough money to do like something serious with me, right? But he's like, what if I did the paid advertising, and I promoted your stuff on a very regular basis? I'm like, okay, because why not? Like, bottom dollar is great, Joe, right? It's fantastic. Don't get me wrong. But in the same sense, I can legitimately expand my reach and broaden my horizons with them doing stuff like that. So why wouldn't I?
Yeah. But so going back to what you said about, like, looking into the future, like, if you were to gaze into an all-knowing crystal ball, what would you say that, if people are looking at the future of, for example, even just Bitcoin, what would you say are some of the things that they should be doing? Like, how can you work to help support, another project, for example, like Digibyte, or what should people be doing in terms of weathering out this price storm?
So I think personally, right, like, holding is important, definitively important, right? Like, I think people need to learn to sell conservatively so they don't tank a chart. Like, there's these people that are like, I'm all in. Well, now I'm all out. Like, what are you doing? You're limiting your chance to, like, if you know how to write a chart correctly, like, I'm learning how to do it. I'm not there yet. But, like, you can pull out like $5,000, come back, and you recover that $5,000 based upon the growth of the chart. Like, there's people that I know how to do that, and they're teaching me. But nice. Like, yeah, no, I've met some cool people, Joe. I've met some cool people, but you got to do it at the right moment. Like, for instance, if you look at Bitcoin right now, when it was done down at like the 28K mark, and now it's back over 30. Like you could have sold off a little bit, and it would have continued to grow, and you would still have the same amount of money in it.
Yeah.
You have been able to liquidate a little bit here, just very conservatively, like 5 to 20% what you have in it, and you would have recouped what you got because you were riding that wave. Like that's an actual strategy I know that people utilize that I'm learning how to do. Like it's a little more complicated than I'm saying. Obviously, you just have to learn, got to educate and do your research. But what you should do is when you're getting those gains, you probably should, and this is just my opinion, if the entire crypto space decided to start padding Bitcoin again and putting a little bit into Bitcoin each, then it's going to recover. It's very obvious. More people buying than selling. Just everyone just go over and buy a little bit of Bitcoin. That's it. And everything will go back
How
up.
important do you think that is for people to specifically have some Bitcoin in their portfolio? Because we hear a lot of people going, yeah, just own one Bitcoin and you're good to go. But let's be honest, like 30 grand for a lot of people is definitely out of their reach, even in a first world nation.
Right. I think you should aim for it overall over like a 5 to 10 year period. If you break it down into a 10-year plan, that's about $3,000 a year of total investment into it.
Well, provided the price doesn't keep going up, but yeah.
Right. I mean, it's going to go up, right? But here's the thing, your other investments are going to go up as well as that goes up.
We really, really hope so.
Because as you're buying towards that goal, right, then it's going to continue to go up. And then the rest of the market will recover with that because it all stems from the mothership. Like, in a sense, there was that theory that all the oceans in the world came from one big glacier, right? Bitcoin's that glacier, and as it melts and it trickles off, it feeds the rest of the waters. That's why sea levels are rising, because of climate change and glaciers melting, the ice cap, so to speak.
Yeah.
So
what do you think would be the best, like, because you asked me before, but at the time I didn't ask you, what would your advice be to ensure that people aren't buying into a landlocked ocean, like a lake, basically? Like, how do they avoid those coins? How do they, what would you say to that?
I think it's better to mitigate your risk than to, like, yes, you got to do your own research. See, listen very carefully to what the team is saying, but there's some people that hide it very, very well. I think it's better to spread out your bag than to go all in on a project until you're 100% certain through your research.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's more important because you've heard the phrase, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
Because here's the truth of the DeFi system right now. There's a lot of scams.
Yep.
And it's hard to mitigate. It's hard to understand. It's hard to research into them because I got a message from somebody today. I don't know how they got in my inbox. They were part of a server I was part of. And it said, are you ready for this? Are you ready for what the message said?
Hit me.
Oh my gosh. You can't. They sent this message to me of all people. If I could figure out, like, I deleted it because I was like, it pissed me off. It was a server for pump and dump tactics.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to say we need to all collectively as a community being crypto find these people, hold a blanket down on them, and we take our turns with bars of soap dropped into a sock and beat them.
Yeah, I mean, you can also use batteries in a sock if you really want.
Batteries are devastating. If you really want to get your best bang for a buck with that, what you do is you take the batteries, right? And then you take some like dental floss or some string, and then you just make kind of like a log cabin with it, and then tie it all together. The equal distribution of mass in space will then cause inertia upon impact, Joe. I put some thought into it, Joe. Don't judge me too harshly.
I gotta say, it sounds like this is not the first time.
Not the first time I've considered it. You are correct. Well, I make crafts, and I had like a whole bunch of dead batteries. I'm like, I wonder what I could do with this. So I thought about making an arts and crafts project, and I built like a block out of these things because we want to make like a little log cabin out of dead batteries. And then I was like, if I were to like tie like a rope to this and turned it into a flail, and then my brain started working on what that would translate to. And I'm like, that would be absolutely barbaric, Joe. I'm telling you. But it's kind of like, And we can use the battery log cabin. I called that design the peacemaker, by the way. We can take this idea of the peacemaker, this battery block, and compare it to decentralized investment bags, right?
Okay.
Because if you lose one part of your total investment, it's still going to be an effective model for what you're aiming to do. Versus if you had one big battery in the center of it to support it and that goes belly up, then all of a sudden it doesn't retain its structure anymore. And it's no longer an effective tool for what you designed it to do. And with investing into crypto, right, you're building like a structure. You're building your portfolio, right? The one thing that we know for sure, Bitcoin is not a rug pull, right?
Yeah.
We know some of these bigger things like Binance and Ethereum are not rug pulls. You can create those as pillars of your structure. And it's okay for stuff that are more stable to have more money into it. I think the further away you get from the source, what the entire system is based on, you should incrementalize your level of investment into it.
It's also very difficult, I think, as well with people. You see the have fun staying poor and that kind of thing. It's you get people saying that anything but Bitcoin is a scam. I mean, Peter McCormack is one such person who's basically, yeah, if it's not Bitcoin, it's basically a scam. And so there's obviously a lot of dilution of the truth there from people, and it can be really difficult. A lot of people have said that Ethereum is a scam. I personally don't think it is. It functions perfectly well. There's never been anything. I mean, sure, they had a lofty roadmap to proof of stake that hasn't materialized. But as it stands right now, the project itself is still fully functional. It still works. So
right. Let's take a look at what that looks like, right? Like they got the Ethereum 2.0 coming out. Now, is that going to be like it's just an upgrade of the initial project?
Yeah. And so you're basically still going to be effectively it's still Ethereum. Everybody's going to move. They're going to reorient the ship, as it were, and everybody's going to be on board.
Mm-hmm. And it's just like the fact that they are going in that direction. I personally don't see Ethereum like doing that to people, because for me, right, like I got an actual project that I'm building from scratch, like everything in it's my design, right? Like my goal is to be like a mainstay in a specific part of the space, but as well as the specific type of community in the world, right? I think people like that created like Bitcoin and Binance and Ethereum, we all have the same mindset. We want to create something that will last, that will impact the space permanently.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons I'm still with Digibyte, is because of like I want one day to be able to sit down with my grandkids, and say, yeah, I was there when the trenches of cryptocurrency were being formed, and I took part in that, and I had a role in it. And that's why I give up my time for this kind of thing, to specifically talk about it and about decentralization and that kind of thing.
So what's Digibyte up to currently then? Let's talk about Digibyte. Like we talked about a lot of stuff, but I want to get to the nitty-gritty about some of this Digibyte things, man. I want to get to the nitty-gritty on it. We know 7 years track record, which is great, right? We know that at one point, weren't you guys in like the top 10 at one point?
Yeah, very briefly, actually. Not a lot of people know that. Yeah.
I remember stuff, Joe.
Crypto gods being here.
Yeah, I see things and I pay attention. And
yeah, so briefly in 2017, we were in the top 10 for a little while there. One of only 6 projects to remain in the top 100 over the last 7 years.
And that's saying something, because there's thousands upon thousands of things,
Yeah,
and
so
I
there's
want to
a nice
sit down
staying.
with my like myriad of grandchildren when Digibyte is like a massive force, and I'm like, I was there. I don't know who your mother was. I don't remember her, but I was there.
One of the things though that Digibyte has specifically been working on. So we've been actually looking at ways we can improve the mining and the participation in the network. So it's actually incredibly timely what we're seeing with Bitcoin and them shutting down a lot of these miners and it negatively affecting the network. That kind of thing won't impact Digibyte as much because of the multiple mining algorithms that we've got, but we want to improve on that even more. So already our mining distribution is infinitely better. Right. But we still want to improve on it, and we want to allow participation from people at home.
Because you guys have so far developed produce over 4 million blocks.
I think we're currently at 13 million.
13 million? Your website's a little outdated, my friend.
Which website is this?
Digibyte.org. Let me look at the one you just provided. So
I did some mining stats myself. Hang on, where's the mining? Where's the blocks here?
it's underneath the blockchain of the digibyte.org.
Digibyte blockchain stats. If that's not going up, so that should show 13.16 million. If that's not going up, I think it's probably an ad blocker. I can tell the guys that run that site. It's not me, but
yeah, you're gonna want to talk to them a little bit. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
but it's really interesting, Joe. You know what I mean? What you guys have been doing and how you guys aren't as well known as everybody else.
Yeah, for sure. And don't get me wrong, that's definitely frustrating in a number of ways.
I can agree with that, because there's other people that don't do as good as I do who are a lot more recognized in the space.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what we have here, okay, is pretty much, this is your personal website.
Yeah, so I've got a blog post here that I've sent through to you. Mm-hmm. And it shows the mining distribution and how many unique miners there were. And I think it was over a 16-hour period.
Yeah, I can see that right here. It's a lot, man. It's a lot. You're looking at from April, right? Because you were talking about it back in April. In a very short period of time, you guys increased the amount of blocks that you produced by, it's looking like, see here. Then we'll follow up with Digibyte from blocks. I think that's 1,100,000. No, that's 11 million. Oh, look at you go.
So that's 4,000 blocks.
Yeah, 4,000 blocks. And
which is just under a day's worth for us.
Right. So 4,000 a day, right? Let's just say 4,000 a day. So we got 4,000 times 365. That's 1,460,000 blocks a year at the rate you're going now, without the prospect of expansion, which I'm sure you're focused on.
Yeah, so not just ways that we can speed it up, but ways that we can also improve this chart even more and have more people participating. I think a lot of that's going to come from enthusiast miners and from home miners and people that have just got their graphics cards sitting at home and they're doing a little bit overnight while they sleep.
Right.
Or they've got maybe their laptop. And one of the things that I'm really interested in is the possibility of doing it on cell phones even. Can you mine it on a mid to high range cell phone?
Right. I'm going to have to talk to you about my strategy, and maybe me and you can partner up on some things.
Yeah, happy to help.
You know what I mean? Because I don't know. I like to partner on stuff. That's what I like to do. You already know that, though. We've talked about a lot of things, Joe, both on podcast and off. If you guys could be the fly on the wall at home on these conversations I have with these people, you'd be like, oh, wow, he's really got some plans. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. It's an exciting thing to be in the crypto space, but also what's more exciting about being in the crypto space is when you're a crypto space person that's cooperating with other people in the crypto space.
So what is it you're most excited about at the moment?
I think about sleeping tonight. I think that's what I'm most excited about at this very moment.
Yep.
But are we talking about my excitement for the crypto space or my personal roadmap for success?
Yeah, why not? I mean, why not? So if you were to ask me what I'm most excited about, I'm probably most excited for the next version of Digibyte and the upgrades. We're bringing in a ton of upgrades. Mm-hmm. What overall though? What is it you're most excited about that you're working?
Well, it's a conglomerate of things, right? Right now, just like the market, my company is kind of in this low point, right? Mm-hmm. We're going to be doing some things with launching other channels and partnering with some stuff to really maximize the revenue flowing through the company, which I'm really excited about. I'm also excited about, because of my connection with Save the World, I'm being roped in to massive names in the space as well as massive names in the world, because Save the World was, they've worked with Act Now for Africa with Nelson Mandela's grandson and Daba Mandela, they have this this really awesome influencer called Crypto Finally, who they're partnered with now. They're partnered with they've partnered with Michael Blackson. They're about to partner with the country of Jamaica. You know, I'm just excited for the massive amounts of things that we're about to be doing, because seeing my name attached to these things and these different projects that we're doing, like for instance, a few of my team members are going to be guests at a convention panel, featured guests.
Nice.
I'm working with another guy right now who he's working on trying to create Ready Player One, turning it into a reality through VR and uniquely minted NFTs.
Nice.
And they've worked with like Netflix and on Super Bowl commercials and all sorts of things.
That's cool.
You know, I'm excited because I am on the forefront of the world changing and I'm a part of it. So I'm excited for the future in general. It's hard to say which one thing I'm most excited about.
So if listeners for today were wanting to get on board and participate in that and get as excited as you are, what sort of things should they be doing?
Well, this is the big thing, right? This is going to seem kind of odd, Joe, to say it, but we need to make Crypto God as big as possible because it's all stemming from my connection to the crypto space. So I truly believe the bigger we can make the Crypto God channel and platforms, the more we'll be able to do as a whole.
Nice. I like that.
If that makes sense, right? Because I met all these people through this podcast. You know, one of them is connected to every major audio house and media house in the country. And that's going to open up some doors for my people. So I know the more influence I can gain in the space and the more well-known I can get, the more things I can start doing stuff for my people.
Nice.
Like, I think what it actually boils down to, it isn't my future I'm excited about. It's the future of my team.
That's cool. I like that.
Like, everything I'm saying doesn't really directly impact me outside of the fact that I'm just kind of pulling the strings and opening the doors. I am more excited about creating opportunities for people that deserve it.
Nice. I like that.
I think that's what I'm most excited about. Because as a leader, I think that's the mark of a real leader, when you care more about the opportunities of your people and team than you do for yourself.
I mean, it would also make a really good t-shirt.
Which part? Which part?
The creating opportunities for individuals that deserve.
Yeah. I mean, that's the underlying mission of my company, right?
Yeah.
Like, we have our vision statement, which is dynamic, innovative solutions for my clients' every need. But, like, for instance, one of my staff just got their medical bills paid off.
Nice, man. That's cool.
And another one is he's able to put a down payment on a house and because he's renting to own. And because of my recommendation, he was able to get in there.
Nice.
Like, sure. Did I make X amount of dollars this week? Yes, that's great. It's great that I'm making enough money to pay people. It's fantastic.
Yep.
But it's what that money's doing for those people. And these were people...
Yeah, the opportunity.
Joe, before me, these people were doing freelance work on Reddit to try to pay their bills. And they were working at places like theaters and McDonald's. And they get paid more doing work that they were doing for free now and not have to do those jobs anymore.
Nice.
That to me is exciting, Joe.
Yeah. And I think one of the things as well that comes with it is like you've talked about the ability to do these charity things, charitable. You've got the token and that kind of thing as well. And I think that's actually really important to be able to give back to the overall world.
Yeah. I mean, I'm now connected to 2 charity tokens that are legitimate with legitimate plans to do some real good. And I know that there are a lot of charity tokens out there that are rugs, but people that are trying to rug people typically don't work as hard as these people are working.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the other thing too. Like, if you don't see movement, that's when it should be concerning. And you get rugged within like the first month more often than not. Yep. You know, I could be wrong, but I've seen coins collapse within 2 weeks. It's
kind of sad though, right? Like
they still liquidity pool of like 140K. I'm like, it's a lot of work for 140K. And then, like, how do they sleep at night, Joe? Here's a question. How do they live with themselves?
Yeah, it's pretty rough, man. Like, I couldn't do it. My conscience is yeah. Yeah, I just couldn't do it. I never could. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night.
Like,
I mean, obviously that's why I'm more interested in coming on and talking with a nice podcast or like I'm involved with Digibyte for that reason. But I guess some people's moral compass
doesn't exist.
Yeah.
like I don't know, man. I care about my word. I like last month I paid my lowest paid member of my team more than I brought home.
Nice.
And that for me is a win, because in a market crash, before the market crash, I was supposed to have enough to pay myself a considerable amount and pay my staff for 2 months.
Yep.
And that turned into me making nothing and paying just all my bills, no profit, just all my bills paid and my staff paid for the month. That's what that translated to for me.
Yep.
But I'm satisfied with that result because I was able to keep my word.
Yeah.
Like, keeping my word, it might take, and you know this as well as I do, Joe, like, it might take you some time to deliver on your word, right? But you do it. Like, ideally, I stick to my timeline.
It's important.
I stick to my timeline, but it might take me longer than I originally planned, but my plan doesn't change. It doesn't change. So what's the big thing before we close? What's the big thing they need to know about Digibyte to get them excited for the future of Digibyte?
Big things coming with Digibyte version 8. We have so much in the pipeline, everything from new mining algorithms that are going to mean that you can participate from home on your computer or your laptop, through to the latest and greatest upgrades that we're looking at from Bitcoin, privacy enhancements from Schnorr signatures and Taproot, performance optimizations that are through the roof. We've already been benchmarking some of them, and we're talking like 50 to 500 times performance improvements in certain aspects. So a lot of big things are happening here. And we've even had talk about new rebranding and a new theme, a new look and feel for it. So I'm so excited for the next version. And what I want more than anything is for people to come along and participate in that and have their voice heard. So if you are excited about cryptocurrency and about Digibyte, then jump on and go to the Digibyte GitHub, hit the button that says watch, and participate in the conversations and the discussion going on there.
Right. You can also comment on this video too, and Joe will see it.
Yeah, and I will see it.
Joe will see it. And you know what, Joe? I always appreciate your time, man. Like, this one ran a little long, but I felt like it was a good conversation.
Yeah, we went over a lot of cool stuff. Thank you so much for having me on as always, man. I really appreciate your time. It's good to hear from you.
Yeah, of course, man. You know you're always welcome here.
But thank you to all the listeners for tuning in too.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, folks, you have to like, comment, and subscribe, because if you're not liking, that means you disagreed with all the good stuff we said, and that's sad. Like, there's a lot of good stuff. There's nothing to not like. I mean, I censor out the profanity for right? Like, so get over it. Have you listened to some of the interviews that curse a lot, by the way?
Yeah, it's great.
It's hilarious. So it's like, there was one with like Elon Peg where we cussed like 30 times in under like 5 minutes. It was just
I could just imagine I was listening to one of them of yours, and I could picture people being in their vehicles, driving on their way to work, and people just hearing everything being bleeped out in the vehicle over, going like, what are they listening to?
Why does it sound like they're in the stall back in the 80s, 50s cash register? But, you got to like it because it's good stuff. It helps the algorithm. Number 2, you got to subscribe, so you can get on the ground floor of all these projects and get updates. Because again, non-shill platform, which means I bring on the people that, number 1, will talk to me, and number 2, that want to talk to me and that I'm excited about. Like, I talk about the stuff I'm passionate about, and then I bring on the people that are passionate about their projects. It doesn't matter if I fully agree with their mission. Yep. I'm here to inform. To inform. And then you got to ring the bell so you get those notifications directly to your devices. And then you got to share it too, because it's good information. It's good education. And if you want to improve the crypto space, well, this is a great platform to do it. So like, comment, and subscribe, and share with all of your friends, and ring the bell so you can get all those notifications. And outside of that, the last thing that you need to do when you get some Digibyte is hodl that